You know, on the flight over here, I was thinking back to when David and I launched our first rebate management system. Back then, we were running a small, UK-only software development shop. And when we told people about our idea to shut down that business and to focus entirely on rebate management, the feedback we heard was overwhelmingly negative. They said, rebates are a really small niche. There's only a handful of distributors in a couple of industries that use rebates. At best, your software is going to be a mild painkiller in a tiny market. That's what they said. And if we fast forward to today, we welcome here not only customers from the UK, as Alex pointed out a minute ago, but we also have customers from all over the world. And whether that's all across the US and Canada, whether it's Europe, we have South Africa represented in the room here today, and, as Alex said, all the way from Australia. And we don't only have distributors, again, where we started, distributors in the room today, some of the best, some of the world's best distributors. We also have wholesalers, manufacturers, buying groups, all coming here. So I really want to thank you. I want to thank you for being founder members of this community and really making all of this possible. Now, last year was our inaugural event, our inaugural Catalyze event in Miami. And we had around 100 rebate professionals, 100 people attend. This year, we have over 200. And this is the largest ever gathering of rebate professionals. So this community is really coming on in leaps and bounds. And I'm honored to be a part of it, because when we get together, great things happen. And I have to tell you, of all the highs and lows of running a fast-growing software company, this is what gives me the greatest pleasure. Seeing people come together, share their knowledge on how they are growing their revenues, increasing their margin, improving their trading relationships, building their careers, and really freeing up their time, freeing up your time to work not just in, but also on your businesses. And I'm looking forward to hearing from many of you today and tomorrow on all the great stories. We kicked off yesterday with a customer advisory board, and that was a fantastic opportunity to hear some of the major successes that you're having, but that will very much continue into today and tomorrow. So, as Alex briefly mentioned, I wasn't planning to mention the alpacas, by the way, that's not on my slide deck, but my real two interests in life have always been flying and computing. Those are my two things. And I was very, very lucky in the 1990s as a teenager to combine those interests. And I bumped into a helicopter flying school in the UK and started hanging out there every weekend. And I would sort of help customers. I would learn all aspects of their business. I think the founders of that flying school thought I might kind of make the tea and water the plants, which I did also do. But the real thing I did was help them to digitize their business, because they had helicopters, they had instructors, they had customers, and all of the records were on paper. It was literally paper records. And again, in the late 90s, the internet was starting to take off. And so I was able to convert all of that to an online system so everyone could access their records online, see where they were. And in exchange for that time hanging out on Saturdays, they very, very kindly gave me free helicopter flight lessons, okay? And they gave me my license, free of charge. So that was extremely generous of them. They also gave me some advice. They said, Andrew, stick to flying as a hobby and pursue computing as a career. And so far, that's turned out to be good advice. And in fact, here I am, as a teenager maybe, filling up a Robinson R-44 helicopter in the cold in the UK and then getting my license on my 17th birthday. But much more than that, where it was a real education is I met so many entrepreneurs because, believe it or not, those guys were not getting a free license. They were paying to learn to fly helicopters. So I met fascinating businesses and their owners and CEOs and learned about what made them tick and what they were trying to achieve. And that was really my introduction into the world of distribution, which we're all part of in this room today. And so I met an entrepreneur who was learning to fly, a guy called Dennis Short, and he had already started a company called DCS, which was the largest of its kind. It was a distributor of health, beauty, and household products, like Procter & Gamble, Unilever, and so on. And what I learned is that those big brands sell 90% of their products to the top 4 or 5 supermarkets, retailers. And there's a very, very long tail of hundreds of smaller distributors, wholesalers, retailers that couldn't meet the minimum order quantity. They couldn't hit P&G's minimum order quantity, and they needed extra attention, more services. So they wanted flexible payment terms. They wanted repacking, promotional packs. They wanted additional brands to go out on their deliveries. And so DCS found that as a really important niche and built a strong distribution business and provided things like category advice. They provided all sorts of innovative promotional type services. So that was a great kind of learning ground for me to really see what goes on in a distributor and to realize that this applies to every industry. All of you in this room, we've got literally industries ranging from office products, we've got automotive components, we have electrical manufacturing and distribution, we have pharmaceutical, we have medical devices, we even have food service, we have fine art, we have some amazing industries. And what's fascinating, and this very much came up again at the advisory board yesterday, is all those industries work in a very similar way, or they have a lot of common ground. They work together to serve customers. And at the core of that really are trading programs and joint business plans. This was really at the core of not just DCS, but every great distributor in every industry. So I kind of really began to understand that if you're a distributor, you need to know what the goals and objectives are of each of your manufacturers. And they're all so different. You know, what products do they want to sell? What parts of the market do they want to get into? Where are they below their target market share? And maybe where are they above? And you know, what's their strategy? And a joint business plan or a trading program really captures this in a document, okay? And then, of course, it has incentives in there to say, if we can achieve these things, we want to then give you a reward. We want to make it worth your while executing against our plan. So that's really what a trading program is all about. And this exists in every great distributor, in every great industry. And the currency of that, of course, is rebates, what we're all here to talk about, rebates. And I really witnessed all of the margin, all of the profit margin move from the gap between buy and sell price towards all kinds of different rebates. And there was a very little in the way of innovation. So these have been around forever. I sometimes imagine tablets of stone with these being etched in thousands of years ago. But I can't provide evidence that that existed, I'm afraid. What I can confirm, though, is since the turn of the last century, these have been around for sure. Okay? These different types of trading programs, incentives, rebate agreements, and nothing's really moved on. They were paper spreadsheets, then they became electronic spreadsheets, and that's really about it. But in all cases, I was convinced this was about ensuring mutually beneficial relationships. Okay? Every party has to win. It has to be good for manufacturers, it has to be good for distributors, and it has to be focused on the end customer. So that is what this is all about, and I've seen hundreds of different forms of these, but fundamentally we have trading programs and rebates that are around what I'd call pay for performance. So if you can execute my strategy, do all these things, I want to pay you a check, pay for performance. If you don't, you won't get paid. So that's fair enough. We understand how that works. Profit protection is another one. So believe it or not, salespeople tend to give away all of the profit. It's a surprising concept, but it apparently does go on. So a lot of companies have their cost price and their sell price, and the salesperson discounts, and then they also get a secret rebate in the center. And we're talking about billions and billions of dollars here in single companies, and that is the profit. So profit protection is the other reason that these exist. And then there's also differentiated pricing, that there's so many different types of customers now in the world, more and more sophisticated. If I'm selling through distribution, I need to be able to provide differentiated pricing, and I do that through rebates. So one of my real beliefs is that the purpose of business is to serve customers. It's not to make a profit. That's not the purpose. If you serve customers well, then profit is a byproduct, and you can make a great profit. But that's not the reason why businesses exist. And the vast majority of global trade is served through partners, through you in this room. You are either supplying your customers through distributors, or you sit between manufacturers and your customers. You are supplying through partnerships. And often, there's a complete disconnect within a company, even inside a company, between purchasing, finance, sales. Certainly, across the supply chain, across the trading relationship, there is a disconnect where everyone uses their own system, separate data, and really hard to get on the same page. And that, unfortunately, creates a lack of trust. It creates disagreements and disputes. And that's the opposite of what we should be focusing on. That's not about serving customers. So all of this really inspired Enable's mission. And Enable's mission is to enable trusted trading relationships that's inside your business, between the different teams, the different departments, and also outside your business with your trading partners. So our mission is to enable trusted trading relationships to serve customers better together. And we have so many examples of great manufacturers who are serving customers through distributors, and we know that if we can work well together, we can do a lot better than we can on our own. So that's the point of Enable. We've got some great software, but there's actually a lot more to it than that. We actually have a unique data set behind the software, and that has actually been created by all of you. So what we can see here is the Enable network. And this is based on actual kind of information, where each Enable company sets up their trading partners, and then those trading partners, in some cases, set up other trading partners. And there's now over 1 million trading relationships on the Enable platform. So this is created by you. This is an organic happening, okay? And it's because of you and because of what you've done that we have some great learnings that we can share. It's also not just the data and the network. It's also people. And of course, we have launched our Rebate Strategists community. And that is now, I think we launched it in October, and that is now 700 people since October, okay? So this has been phenomenal, and this has really taken on a life of its own. Every day we get new posts from people with new ideas, new insights, and that is being shared across industries. So really, really good to see. And again, we're able to share some of that insight today. So what is this insight? What are these learnings? The first thing I wanted to share with you is that across distributors and retailers, rebate in all forms is now more than 100% of profit, literally more than 100%. We have examples where it's more than 400%, by the way, but on average, it's more than 100% of profit. And not only that, for a manufacturer, on average, this is their single biggest cost, the single biggest cost in their business is rebates in various forms. We have customers, or manufacturing customers, who have tens of thousands of employees, more than that. And their rebate payments are more than their total payroll and their total kind of factories and overheads all combined. So this is a huge number. This is a huge number, and it's a huge leverage and kind of profit opportunity if we can get this right. Because, again, the vast, vast majority are trying to manage this kind of offline. The other significant learning we've seen is that companies who collaborate with their trading partners and actually share that information online, work together online, are much more successful at driving profitable growth, okay? Many still see rebates as a necessary evil. And it's kind of, it's like an entitlement. I get this thing and I'm just entitled to it. But those who are actually using rebates to drive real growth of market share, of profitability, are doing that via collaboration. And at Enable, just to give you a bit, let you in on the secret here, we actually have a health score for every single customer, every single one. If you don't know yours, speak to your customer success manager, and they'll be happy to share it with you, I'm sure. And the health score looks at 30 objective measures. Is that right, David? It's about 30? More like 40 now, okay. 40 objective measures of a company's health using our platform. And I can tell you that those that are collaborating on Enable, which means they're inviting their trading partners in, they're on the same page, they're tracking how things are going, are 91% more healthy than those that are not. The health score, on average, is 91% higher. And just a quick story on that is we have a great company in Northern Europe. They're a distributor. They have exclusive relationships with some key manufacturers. And they were having a real challenge where discounting was becoming a major problem. Discounts were getting more and more and more, and their dealers that they were selling to, didn't care and didn't really think it was appreciated. They didn't appreciate it. So what they did is turn to rebates and collaborated with these dealers so they could log on every day, they could see the targets, and they could see how close they were to the next rebate. And this completely transformed their business. And so the customer in question promptly told me this. He said, discounts are quickly forgotten, but rebates are earned. And just as quickly as that, I stole this quote and then put it all over the internet. But this applies to every business and every industry. And when it's done right, this thing, which is such a huge cost for a manufacturer and such a huge part of profitability for a distributor, can be transformed into a revenue driver. So let's look at 2023. Believe it or not, it's predicted that global trade will exceed $100 trillion this year. $100 trillion. And the reality is, that's doubling every 15 years. And again, the vast majority of that is supplied through partners, through people in this room that are here today. 76 trillion this year, based on our data, is going to go through trading partners. And, some way or another, you are dependent on successful partnerships to reach your customers. And having very effective trading programs, joint business plans is more important than ever. There's no question about that whatsoever. You're also facing a lot of pressures, whether it be material shortages, whether it be pricing pressure, maybe rising transport costs. The pressure is not going down. This is only increasing. And of course, customer expectations are not reversing. I always talk about Amazon here, but they still do a fantastic job. They've continued to do a fantastic job at raising the bar on customer expectations. And now, in any industry, customers expect the same service. They want to do, one-click ordering. They want to have same-day delivery. Next-day delivery is no good. It needs to be same-day. They want to have a very flexible returns policy. So there's no doubt at all, speed and sophistication are accelerating, okay? And the vast majority of us are still trying to keep pace using outdated tech. That's just a reality here. So we really do need our trading agreements to work for us. We need joint business plans that make sense, and we need rebates that are relevant and effective. So it's no surprise at all that complexity is increasing. And we can see here this very complicated mathematical formula that the frequency of agreements has gone up, as well as the volume. And when we look at our data, when we look at this point last year, we're actually seeing a 22% increase in transactions that are linked to rebates. 22%. Some of that is growth. Some of it is just transactions that didn't have rebates before that do today. So that's increasing. And in terms of the number of agreements, we're actually seeing an 89% increase from what we had last year from that same cohort of customers. So ignoring enables growth. 89% increase in agreements that are going to expire within the next 12 months. And that's because we're all creating more. We're making agreements that are more focused, shorter term, more customer specific, product specific. So complexity is increasing, and this is the pressure. This is the pressure that we're all feeling. This is why it's so painful. It's why it's so painful to manage. This thing is not getting any better. So to kind of summarize those realities, let's just be clear, because this is like a perfect storm, really. We've got those customer expectations continuing to rise. We've got a staggering amount of global trade going through the supply chain, going through partnerships, and rebates are the currency of those partnerships. Rebates create the connections between trading partners, and they create alignment to get both sides of that relationship on the same page. What are we here for? What are our goals, and are we achieving those goals and being paid, basically? And there's also that enormous profit impact. And alongside all of that, complexity is increasing. And by the way, workload is increasing. There's a real shortage. We're not hiring more and more people to deal with all of this. That's at best probably a static situation, and that probably is at best. So what's unbelievable, despite all of this, is that we're still working in silos. We're still working in silos. I go back to, again, the 18th century, my photo of whenever it was, 1900, and things haven't really moved on very much. And we've got silos in our business and also across our trading relationships. So what we're seeing here is very simplistic. There's obviously a lot more departments involved than these three. But what I see all the time is purchasing teams that negotiate amazing agreements with suppliers, really great piece of negotiation, analysis, gets signed off, gets filed away, never gets set up in the finance team. It's not compatible with their system, it gets lost. The benefits of that agreement are never realized. This happens all the time. It's exactly the same with sales and the agreements they negotiate with customers. I also see, for example, buyers who are paid based on the rebates they earn, not the overall profitability or what the sales are. The product may never be sold. They may get a great rebate, but overall they might be underwater, but they're being paid based on that. It's really a siloed way of thinking. And when we open this up to the whole trading relationship, it's almost like it compounds. It becomes much, much worse. So I see all the time accounts receivable teams receiving a check or a wire, and it's for $200,000, and no one has any idea what it relates to. And they walk around the office and they say, we've got this $200,000. Does anyone know? It came in from company X. Why have we got it? I see lots of nodding going on, by the way. Crazy. And then other way around, accounts payable, they are waiting for claims to come in. They're sitting back and waiting to see if their partner makes a claim. And it may come in. It might be $1 million. It might not come in. I saw one last week. I was in the UK last week and seeing some great customers out there. And one of those customers said they actually have all of these kind of agreements and rebates layered on top of each other, and they don't know why they exist. They don't know. Nobody knows anymore. They've all left the company, the people that negotiated those. So they pay these rebates, but they don't know why. And they said the customers probably don't know why they get them either. but they can't take them away because they would complain if they were taken away, but nobody knows why they're there. So this is just crazy. And if you'll humor me for a minute, I'd just like to go back to those helicopter flying days, because when you learn to fly, you fly according to VFR, which is Visual Flying Rules, okay? And it's quite a fair weather activity, so this is the ideal type of situation you want to learn to fly in. Now, of course, in the UK, it's very rarely like this, as many of you know. This is like a typical summer's day in the UK. So this is actually why I moved to California. This is the real reason I moved. But it's really hard to learn to fly in these conditions. There's a lot less information, okay? You have to go really, really slowly. You can't see ahead, and it's actually very dangerous. This is actually the #1 killer of helicopter flying in particular, is bad weather. And we've all heard the terrible stories of famous people and not famous people dying in helicopter crashes, and it's actually mostly down to bad weather. But, for me, this is very similar to what we're doing here. We're operating our businesses, we're trading, we've got velocity going on, huge values, and we're operating in fog. We're just operating with a total lack of visibility. So this is really the point of Enable. This is what Enable is here for. This is a problem that we're solving. We're here to massively improve that visibility, and we're here to enable trusted trading relationships that can serve customers better together. Now, since last Catalyze, last year, the world has moved on a lot. Technology's moved on. IoT-based track and trace is now so sophisticated we get almost a real-time view of goods. Robotics have continued to evolve significantly. There's been the rollout of ChatGPT just in literally the last few months. And can you believe it's actually written this entire speech for me? So you don't need a marketing or a communications team anymore. Where are they? But just to illustrate, how fast things are moving, there was a great piece of research that was written by one of our investors, Steve Sloan from Menlo. And Steve is a very wise guy. I was stumbling around Silicon Valley in late 2019 on a tourist visa with an idea and no money. And Steve led our first investment round back in 2020. And so he did some research. This is literally last week. We'll share the link with everyone here, which was looking at how long does it take technology to reach 100 million users, okay? How long does it take? And on the far left there, we have Intuit, which is one of the world's most successful ever software companies. It's like massively successful. It took 30 years for them to reach 100 million users. And then the Apple Mac, I think it was 5 or 6 years, maybe slightly longer, to reach 100 million users. If you look at ChatGPT, it's reached 100 million users in 2 months. 2 months. Just think of that, 30 years down to 2 months to reach 100 million users. So let's be clear, this is unprecedented. The pace of change is massively accelerating, and this is something we can't ignore. So AI is often associated with analytics, and in the world of rebates, we really think about it in layers. So we have this diagnostic and descriptive analytics, and this is really what's happened. It's like a rear-view mirror. What's happened and why? And of course, we have lots of capabilities in the product today to understand that. Then we go on to predictive and descriptive. Sorry, I got that wrong. Prescriptive and predictive. And that's about right. And that's more about looking ahead, okay? Looking ahead, what might happen, how you might get there. And we've also got plenty of capabilities today on that. We've got things like what-if scenario modeling, so we can plan out different scenarios and give advice on, well, you could do this, you could do that. If you did this, then you would make this margin, and so on. What we're talking about with generative AI is a whole new level. This is not about just analyzing. It's not mere analysis. This is actually about content creation, okay? So generative AI can actually generate new programs, and just imagine a system that knows the business outcome you want. It understands the margin you're aiming for, the volume you want, the market share you're trying to achieve, and based on all of that, it can actually create rebates and trading programs for you. Now, this is not all outside the realm of possibility at all, and we're already working towards this. And in fact, David and Miraj, who are here somewhere and who will be on stage, have told me that it's well on the way. So we're going to hear from a number of speakers today about this topic. Okay. I think a key thing that has really struck me is the types of incentive programs and rebates are just so numerous. There's just so many, whether it is volume rebates, whether it's market development funds, whether it's claimbacks, special pricing agreements. There's a million different ways of kind of managing incentives, different teams that do them. And this doesn't help with our silo approach. This actually makes it worse. It creates more silos. And it also creates less clarity and more confusion. So the first thing that I'm going to decree today, is that these are all rebates, okay? Have to repeat after me. No, not really, I'm kidding. But these are all rebates. These are all rebates. And we, with your help, with the help of our community, have actually defined. We've created a definition of what that is. So this is our definition of what a rebate is, okay? A rebate is any B2B transaction where funds flow back through the supply chain. Anything where any money flows back. You can think of it as funds post-transaction. So anything that happens after the transaction. This is the definition of a rebate. The second thing I want to decree is that rebates are strategic. Okay? They absolutely are. When I started this, I didn't know it, and it hadn't occurred to me. This was just a challenge to manage, a necessary evil, a pain, and we were just trying to do some software to make it a bit easier. But I came to believe very quickly, working with people in this room, that there's so many great outcomes of using rebates as a strategy for growth. So rebates in all their forms can drive behavior. They can go from a feeling of being entitled to one of being rewarded and actually creating more alignment in the supply chain. So the question really is, how can we break out of these silos that we're in now? How can we collaborate internally in our business and also externally across the supply chain and really use every type of rebate as a tool in our toolkit to drive our business relationships forward? We really need one place to work together, one central place to conquer the complexity that we all face, conquer the complexity of rebates, and then bring together your data and also your partner's data and execute for mutual benefit. Because I really do believe that this is about mutual benefit. This is not a zero-sum game. So with that, I'm very excited to launch the Enable Rebate Management platform. And here it is. This is one platform to manage all forms of rebates, one platform to manage all funds that flow back through the supply chain. And really, all the pressure that we're feeling, all that's changing in the world, everything I've spoken about so far, all of those learnings have led us to this, have led us to this platform. We realized we could solve all of this in one place, and that one place is the rebate management platform. So why now? Why did we not solve this before? I think the world has changed, and we've learned a lot. We've learned a lot from each of you, and also technology has advanced. And what was not possible 12 months ago is absolutely possible today. So, where we started with all of this is we really started as a calculator for finance teams in distribution. That was the start of Enable. We were just used in finance teams, in distributors, and it was just volume rebates. It was annual volume rebates. And that in itself is a significant requirement, but it was a point solution, okay? That's where we started. And what we've done is, first of all, we've broadened out across many different business types through collaboration, through distributors, those distributors, inviting their manufacturers, and those manufacturers, in some cases, adopting the system, we've actually grown into those manufacturers, into buying groups, into wholesalers, into retailers. So we've expanded across a whole range of business types. The next thing that we've done is we've expanded across the types of rebate. And once again, I showed the list of many, many types, whether it's marketing-led, sales-led, purchasing-led, but all those different types of rebates, it makes total sense to have those all in one place, in one platform, to really get rid of those silos. And then thirdly, we've broadened out the functional capabilities, okay? So it's not just a repository of agreements or a calculation engine. This is also about powerful workflows to review and approve these things internally and externally with your partners. This is about collaboration and being able to set very specific controls on who you're inviting in, what they're doing, what they're seeing, and again, executing these agreements with your partners. And it's about analytics. And these are all things that we can apply AI to as well. So as we continue to move forward, you'll see that being developed in all of these areas. So we've developed 3 themes, okay? 3 themes to really explain why this, why now, and also just to make it, just to have a memorable way to contain the learnings for each of you. And I want to just take you through those right now. So our 3 themes are comprehensive, collaborative, and controlled. And we think we need all of this together to be successful in this journey. Let's take a look at those. So comprehensive is really about all rebate types, okay? And it's about having total flexibility for commercial teams to build the agreements that give them the outcomes they need. You know, that's so important, rather than constraining commercial teams. So comprehensive support for all types of rebates. And often companies start with those annual volume agreements and then evolve and create much more surgical, kind of focused agreements as well. And one of the phrases that I heard from someone in the room today is going from a sledgehammer to a scalpel. You know, an annual agreement, X% on all purchases is pretty much a sledgehammer, so that's fine. But you know, we are seeing this kind of scalpel approach much more now. Individual customers, individual products, specific date ranges, this is the incentive. So total flexibility and comprehensive cover. Now, the world has put out a requirement for us all to be more nimble, and for us, the answer to that, once again, is this other C word, which is collaboration, okay? Again, this used to be only the finance team that used a piece of software to manage their rebates. But this is about collaborating across your business. So it's about having your sales team, your purchasing team, your finance team, everyone using it. And then it's about going upstream in your supply chain. Get your suppliers using it. And it's about going downstream in your supply chain. And we have many of you that are doing both. You literally have your suppliers logging in, you have your customers logging in, all of your teams logging in, and they're all collaborating together and executing these agreements for mutual benefit. Remember, on average, our companies who do this are 91% more successful with the outcome than those that don't, 91%. And finally, of course, it all has to be controlled. You know, this has to be controlled, and equally importantly is the flexibility that your commercial teams need to negotiate the agreements that will drive the business. Finance have to be able to account for it. They have to be able to objectify this crazy deal that you've just negotiated and calculate it and accrue for it and forecast it. So it has to be controlled. It has to be secure. And ideally, what we found as well is it has to be controlled by both sides. Okay? So you want both sides, both trading partners who are trading together, to use their own data and control it themselves, and then you can compare, obviously, but you don't want to be reliant on someone else controlling, you know, the outcome of the agreement. So there we have it, comprehensive, collaborative, and controlled. And as we go through today, you'll learn more about those themes. But really, again, this is not about software. This is about you. This is about people in this room. And it's really empowering you to go from rebate administration towards using rebates as a strategy. That's what this is really all about. It's about freeing up your time, again, allowing you to work on rather than in your business. And it's about going from siloed working that we talked about into this new collaborative world. So as I approach the end of this, there's really three things that I need you to do. I need to compel you to do to really get you on the path to being a rebate strategist, okay? The first of those is please take a little time to learn some more about this platform. And we've got a lot of people here today. We've got booths, we've got stations where we can take you through a lot more detail of each of those capabilities. We have a product keynote after lunch, which will be very specific and focused and actually show some of our innovation, some of our new functionality. So that's number one, okay? Number two is we're actually starting a rebate strategist certification. We still have a thing called Rebate Strategy University, RSU, which is online content, and that's been hugely popular. So many of you have attended that. We've got some great people that run those sessions, okay? We've now converted this into an actual certification. So I want you to be amongst the very first people to take that and get that badge. I'd love to hear your feedback, and I'd like you to benefit. And then thirdly, I want to challenge you. I want to challenge you to invite your trading partners to trade with you online. This doesn't need to be all of them. This is not saying walk out this room and suddenly invite 1,000 customers or suppliers to log into your platform. You can start with one, okay? It's very, very easy. And once again, we have people here that can show you how. You can literally invite the first one, the second one. You can control what they can see, what they can do. And I promise you that as you do that, you're going to get much more return and impact on your agreements, your trading programs, your joint business plans. So I really would challenge you to invite your trading partners. So I think I managed to count to 3 just about. We have got some fascinating speakers today, and we are going to take a short break in a moment and return at about 11, or maybe not about, return at exactly 11 a.m. to hear from our next speaker. We'll introduce our next speaker then. I would just like to say a couple of words myself, because we are very lucky to have Arma Paul on the stage. Arma is the president of North America for Schneider Electric, a fantastic company. And this is another great case study, by the way, because Schneider Electric were and are supplying many distributors. You know, some of them will be in this room. And some of those actually invited Schneider Electric to collaborate with them. So they were one of the smart companies who invited Schneider Electric as a trading partner, and they traded and collaborated on the Enable platform. And what happens next actually happens quite often, okay? Schneider Electric became a customer and said, we want to use this internally ourselves, not just with this 1 or 2 distributors, we want to use it ourselves. So they became a customer, which is fantastic. But what happened after that doesn't happen very often. It doesn't happen very often. They looked at it and they said, actually, we see that this is such a big need, everything I've been talking about today in terms of the need to drive great trading programs with distributors and use modern technology. And they said, can we invest in Enable? We don't just want to be a collaborator and now a customer. We actually would like to invest. And so that went ahead. And you can imagine Arma has a unique perspective, everything he knows about the world of manufacturing distribution, but also being a customer and an investor in Enable. So a truly unique perspective. Looking forward to hearing from him after the break. So I think in closing, you know, I really wanted to thank you for listening. I'm truly grateful for your contribution to our mission. We feel we're on a really important mission here, and we could not be here without all of you. And I look forward to working with each of you as we continue on this very exciting journey that's ahead of us. So thank you very much.